Now, Jimmy, let's talk about risk assessment. Do you think there's a difference in the probability that two 80-year-olds with multiple cases of cancer are going to serve out their term versus the moon falling into Lake Michigan? What I want you to do is to stop offering theories about politics on your platform that are bogus.
Yeah, well, I think I just proved to you they're not bogus, Sam. You haven't proved that.
It's absurd, Jimmy. I'm sorry. It's absurd.
That's not, you're voting out of fear again. Oh, because there might be 2 Supreme Court judges. What if there's 3? What if the moon falls into Lake Michigan? What are we going to do then? No. I know that this is my risk assessment.
What are we on now? An epic argument at the U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday. An issue is whether to reverse the court's nearly half-century-old Roe v. Wade decision and subsequent decisions declaring that women have a constitutional right to terminate a pregnancy. Until now, the court's abortion decisions have upheld Roe's central framework that women have a and trans men, repping you guys, constitutional right to an abortion in the first 2 trimesters of pregnancy when a fetus is unable to survive outside of the womb until roughly between 22 and 24 weeks. But Mississippi's law bans abortion after 15 weeks. A separate law enacted a year later would ban abortions after 6 weeks, and while the 6-week ban is not at stake in this case, 6-week ban, wonderful. The state is now asking the Supreme Court to reverse all of its previous abortion decisions. Yeah, there's a Twitter thread going through the arguments. Hold on. Sotomayor says the sponsors of Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban said, "We're doing it because we have no justices." Hey guys, remember all those people? Remember Jimmy Dore, who said the idea of a conservative majority Supreme Court being brought about by Trump and then enacting serious change was completely outlandish? Remember when he laughed at Sam Cedar for claiming that? Anybody who downplayed the harm of Trump's presidential election purely on the basis of the Supreme Court picks that he could enable should never be taken seriously ever again for anything. Not even unrelated things. Not even like really simple basic stuff. Have you had food today? Have you wet your diaper? No, we need a caretaker to help assess the validity of these decisions. Did Jimmy Dore say something like the moon was more likely to crash into the earth? I think he did say that. He said like, well, what if the moon crashes into the earth? In response to the idea that the Supreme Court might be stacked by Trump. Anyway, we know he's a dumb fuck. Let's...
The sponsors of this bill, the House bill in Mississippi, said we're doing it because we have new justices. The newest ban that Mississippi has put in place, the 6-week ban, the Senate sponsor said we're doing it because we have new justices on the Supreme Court.
Cool.
Will this institution survive the stench that this creates in the public perception that the Constitution and its reading are just political acts? I don't see how it is possible. It's what Casey talked about when it talked about watershed decisions. Some of them, Brown versus Board of Education it mentioned, and this one, have such an entrenched set of expectations in our society. This is what the court decided, this is what we will follow. That we won't be able to survive if people believe that everything, including New York versus Sullivan, I could name any other set of rights, including the Second Amendment, by the way. There are many political people who believe the court erred in seeing this as a personal right as opposed to a militia right. if people actually believe that it's all political, how will we survive? How will the court survive?
Justice Sotomayor, I think the concern about appearing political makes it absolutely imperative that the court...
I hate this discourse so fucking much. There is no such thing as constitutional originalism. There is no such thing as a non-political interpretation of a political document. I have no idea why. This is such a liberal disposition. Conservatives lie when they say they believe in it. Liberals are telling the truth when they say they believe in it. The idea that the idea that you can just apolitically interpret a document, like, do you think it's a coincidence that conservative justices will overwhelmingly interpret it in conservative, convenient ways, and liberal justices will overwhelmingly interpret it in ways that are convenient to liberals? Like, do you think that's a coincidence? Do you think there's any relationship between the political opinions of the judge and the way in which they interpret? Because if there is, then it's clearly not an apolitical interpretation. It's so stupid. By the way, what I'm talking about is one of the fundamental precepts of critical race theory at the collegiate level, not the elementary school, whatever we talked about, you know, whatever nonsense conservatives are mad about. One of the elements of critical race theory that's taught, you know, for people actually studying it, is the idea that laws can be developed and enforced in a neutral, non-biased manner is complete hogwash. It's just not true. That all law and all institutions are invariably coded and biased by the people who create and enforce them. That there's no way around that. That's not even like a flaw to fix. That's just a fact of the system. That's a fact of the world. You might as well like rail against, you know, thermodynamics as a concept. It is how the world works. Chief Justice Roberts suggests the bright line rule established in Roe and Casey. Oh, earlier somebody said in chat, in a functional country, the right to an abortion would have been established via law and not via a Supreme Court ruling. And yes, that is absolutely true. The fact that one of our most fundamental medical rights has been held by a Supreme Court decision and not by anything more substantive than that is pretty wild, I think. I mean, there are a lot of ways it could have gone, but clearly, like, all it takes is the scales to tip slightly, and there you go. All right, hold on.
Unfortunately, I know what it said about viability in Roe, but was viability an issue in the case? I know it wasn't briefed or argued.
It was not an issue certainly the way it is an issue here, Your Honor. I think
this is from this morning. Crazy.
It was to the extent that the court had to reaffirm Roe. The way to read that as something other than dicta would be to understand.
I'm sorry. I don't know what that said. Was it an issue in Roe?
Oh, in Roe?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. My understanding is no. I mean, the law there was didn't have a viability tag. That was inserted by.
In fact, if I remember correctly, and it's an unfortunate source, but it's there. In his papers, Justice Blackmun said that the viability line was
Justice
dicta.
Blackmun. There is no
and presumably he had some insight on the
reading
question
of these documents.
I think, and I'd add, Your Honor, Justice Blackmun, and I think as well his papers pointed out the arbitrary nature of it and the line drawing problems in there too.
And then in Casey said that was the core principle or the central principle in Roe, viability. It said that after tossing out the trimester formula, which many people thought was the core principle. But was viability at issue in Casey?
I don't care about these particulars. It is true that Roe v. Wade rests on really shaky legal grounding. The whole right to privacy thing, that was never a good bedrock upon which to build abortion rights. Like the right to because the argument made with abortion is that by anti-abortion advocates is that this isn't just some regular medical procedure. You're entailing the death of another life, which is true. You know, a zygote or a fetus is a life, you know, much like a skin cell is a kind of life, you know, however you want to stretch that definition. There's clearly something distinct about abortion, like ethically and legally, and the right to privacy argument completely sidesteps it. You know what I mean? Like, essentially, the Supreme Court just ignored the critical decision there. Like, they're just like, oh, well, privacy, it's your doctor, whatever, and they fucking zip. But it doesn't address the actual question that people have, which means that once that really shaky foundation gets challenged, it's difficult to build up a good defense based on the merits of Roe v. Wade. After Sotomayor suggests overturning Roe would imperil other precedents protecting contraception and gay rights, Barrett asks if the court would overrule Roe in a way that preserves those precedents. Sounds like she's preemptively saying Roe is dead, but these are safe. Yikes!
Would a decision in your favor call any of the questions, any of the cases, that Justice Sotomayor is identifying into question?
No, Your Honor. I think for a couple reasons. First of all, I think the vast run of those cases, and some mentioned from time to time, I think Griswold, Lawrence, Obergefell, these are cases that draw clear rules. You can't ban contraception, can't ban intimate romantic relationships between consenting adults, can't ban marriage of people of the same sex. Clear rules that have engendered strong reliance interests, and that.
Seriously, the fact that these things are relying on Supreme Court, why do we not have, like, strong federal legislation on this? I have no, like, how is it that we have federal legislation concerning the Civil Rights Act? I mean, we clearly have federal legislation which dictates things pertaining to people's fundamental civil rights, but this, we're just locked behind. Most anti-sodomy laws are still in the books. Yeah, unenforced, generally, but yeah. What would you prefer to have it based off of, Vaush? I hate debating abortion as much as you. It's always hard to find a place to start from. Do you mean, like, what legal precedent or what argument? I mean, to me, the legal argument is overwhelmingly simple. Legally, zygotes and fetuses don't have personhood. It's that simple. They don't. They legally do not have personhood. They're not citizens. They're not naturalized. Only through birth does one become a citizen. There's not a religious argument here, right? Because doesn't, like, the Bible say, like, upon your first breath you take life or some shit like that? I don't think the abortion argument, I don't think the anti-abortion case is, like, settled by the Bible. Like, to me, it's quite simple, really. The legal precedent should be very simply about personhood. You're zero when you're born, not when you're conceived, though that's in this culture, not in others. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really give a fuck about any of this shit, okay? The abortion arguments I'm so fucking tired of. I'm so sick of all the bad faith bullshit. I saw that Charlie Kirk debate where he said that he felt that abortion was murder, but then when asked how he felt about women who had had an abortion, he said, well, he felt bad for them and he was mad at the people who had brainwashed them. What fucking bullshit, dude. Like I said before, Germans were brainwashed into thinking Jews weren't people. Would he say that he feels bad for a German citizen who shot a Jew in the back of the head? Fucking no. He clearly thinks that there's some categorical difference between a living, breathing, alive human being and a fucking fetus or a zygote. They don't think it's murder. If conservatives actually gave a fuck about fetuses, if they actually gave a shit about any of this, they would be huge proponents of afterbirth childcare and of contraception to prevent unwanted children from being conceived. But they're not. They're categorically against those things, which suggests to me this has far more to do with punishing degeneracy and punishing lascivious women than it has to do with actually protecting the unborn or whatever. What's that quote that I saw from Facebook? It's such a brilliant quote. The unborn are the perfect minority group to take the cause for because they're silent. They cannot speak their own rights. You get to be the perfect virtue signaler as you take to defending the rights of the unborn. They can never criticize you because they're not born yet. Do you just have that on Twitter? Did you just find that in like, oh my God, you found that in like 2 seconds. Oh my God. The unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated, unlike the incarcerated, the addicted, or the chronically poor. They don't resent your condescension or complain that you're not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, and religious baggage you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships, and when they are born, you can forget about them because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if by being born they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love if you want to claim you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners, immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, they all get thrown under the bus for the unborn. Is this a George Carlin quote? If that's the case, I didn't know that. He was a tremendously based guy, so, you know, I think it would fit in line. It kind of matches his cadence, too. It does sound like him, yeah. Well, whatever the case may be. It's an argument that I'm sick of having. I really genuinely wish that conservatives would be honest when they talked about this shit, you know? If conservatives were just like, honest, we just think that women who fuck and aren't ready to have a kid should be punished because I think that shit's degenerate and I think they should keep their legs closed. If they would just come at it from that perspective, I would much rather have those conversations. Infinitely more. There are 1,000 more things I have to say in response to that. But that's never the conversation we're going to have. It's never, because the whole pro-life shit has been so politically effective. Well, we'll see how it goes, I guess. What is this? All right, let's finish up these segments from the opening arguments.
Somehow, I want to be clear about what you're arguing and not arguing.
And to be
clear, you're not arguing that the court somehow has the authority to itself prohibit abortion, or that this court has the authority to order the states to prohibit abortion, as I understand it, correct?
What a stupid fucking thing to say. Like the Twitter says, nobody is talking about the Supreme Court mandating abortion bans. Who's talking about that? What? We're talking about the Supreme Court protecting people's right to an abortion, not mandating abortion bans. Who the fuck is talking about that?
Correct, Your Honor.
As I understand it, you're arguing that the Constitution's silent and therefore neutral on the question of abortion. In other words, that the Constitution's neither pro-life nor pro-choice on the question of abortion, but leaves the issue for the people of the states or perhaps Congress to resolve in the democratic process. Is that accurate?
Right. We're saying it's left to the people, Your Honor.
And so for if you were to prevail, the states, majority of states or states still could and presumably would continue to freely allow abortion. Many states, some states would be able to do that even if you prevail under your view. Is that correct?
That's consistent with our view, Your Honor. It's one that allows all interests to have full voice, and many of the abortions we see in...
It's a states' rights thing. Remember, abortion is never going to be illegal nationwide. That's not happening. However, okay, somebody linked this earlier. These are states that seem like they're pretty much just going to ban abortion altogether. These are the states where it seems like this is what's going to happen. Yeah, they're trigger laws. Okay, so there might be more. Yeah, Georgia might. Yeah, I don't know if this is a complete list, but I mean, pay attention to what's going on in your state, and you have to make that judgment because I don't know everything going on in every state. However, okay, we're going to move from analyzing the Supreme Court, and by analyzing, I mean yelling, and we're going to talk about what we can do about it, okay? Look, I'm just going to be flat about this, all right? If you have a womb, if a womb is something that you possess, if it's active, if it's online, you know, if you don't have some sort of womb broke disease, if you can get pregnant, okay, you need to have a plan to drive to a place that can get you an abortion. It's possible that some of the states that will crack down on abortion are going to make efforts to make it more difficult for people in those states to move to adjacent states to get abortions or to travel briefly outside the border of the states with an abortion ban. But you need to have a plan. Yes, there are pills that you can get, but I really don't want to touch on anything medical or legal here, because I don't know if the legality on those things is going to change. I understand that generally what's controlled through mail is like federally regulated, and federally those aren't illegal. Medically, I do not want to advocate for anyone to do anything like that. You're free to look into something like that if you choose to. However, just contemplate the possible necessity of needing to travel outside the boundaries of your state if your state is likely to ban abortion in the near future if Roe v. Wade is voided, okay? Now, I know that is a big goddamn inconvenience, okay? Though significantly less so than carrying a child to term if you don't want them. But this might just be a thing you have to do, okay? Listen, we live in a third world country, okay? Imagine that you live in like rural Afghanistan and it's like a drive to a hospital in case something bad happens, okay? Just sympathize with them as you imagine that. Here's a suggestion, okay? How about this one? Make friends in safe states that are relatively near you. If you ever need to travel over and get a medical procedure done in an adjacent state, you know, if there's a place you could stay at for one day or something like that. I'm serious. Look, guys, I understand this sounds crazy. Making a friend, talking to people, leaving your house, I understand, okay? This is difficult stuff for us, but it remains essentially important. Poor people can't go to other states. Really? Poor people can't travel on a whim? Well, shit, I thought it would just be like a day vacation. You serious? There are obstacles? This isn't just easy? Yeah, of course. Yes, obviously. Of course. That's part of the problem, but that doesn't mean you can't do this, you know? Sorry, I'm being mean. Yes, obviously this is tremendously difficult. Could Republicans make it illegal to travel to other states for abortions? I don't have a tremendous legal grasp on the situation. However, there are plenty of things that you can travel to adjacent states to do that aren't legal in the states that you're in. For example, gambling. There are states or areas where gambling is legal and areas where it's not. You can travel between them to gamble. That's not considered illegal. Nobody would go after you for that. Look, this is something you're probably going to need to make plans for anyway, okay? Just keep an eye on what's going on in your state and try to make preparations in case it's necessary. Also, learn how to use contraceptives, you fucking degenerates. Really, my panic, you know, is I don't have a womb, but I do have ripe, fertile, virile sperm. The idea of fucking around in a state where abortions are illegal, like hooking up with people, whoo boy. Now that's what I like to call fucking terrifying, you know? Because imagine like if something like, you know, if all you know, preventative measures fail, then it's a whole goddamn thing. But look, difficult time to live in. Don't double back condoms, folks. Yeah, that's true. Why don't you get tied? I guess, I mean, you can get a vasectomy if you want. I think they're supposed to be reversible in most cases, but again, I'm really trying to shy away from giving medical or legal advice, and you guys are really pushing me towards it. My advice here is simple, okay? Learn what's going on in your state. Make plans in case you need to travel outside of your state for emergency medical procedures. Make friends in adjacent states, or at least have some possible accommodations. So that in case things go really bad, you have options. And don't be a fool, wrap your tool. Learn that one in high school. Don't be a fool, wrap your tool. True, Vermin. How much time until they ban condoms? They're not going to ban condoms. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I don't think vasectomies are easily reversible. So I wouldn't get those ones on a whim. Just be careful, okay? You understand? Serious stuff, guys. We're talking about a severe undoing of our medical rights. Yeah, you get it. Whatever, you get it.